Education believes that open communication with our parents, students, teachers, personnel, and district residents is very important. For this reason, the board sets aside time at the beginning and end of each regular meeting for public comments. However, in order to focus on tonight's previously scheduled agenda, as a general rule, the board will not be able to respond to your comments and questions at this time. You may refer your comments and questions to administration for follow-up, or we may add the subject of your comments to the agenda for future meetings. Either way, please be assured that we welcome and take your comments seriously. The board asks each person to limit comments to no more than 2 minutes. In order for the district clerk to maintain accurate records of the meeting, each individual is requested to state his or her name and address. Any public comments? All right, motion to, this is for all routine matters. We need to approve minutes of the regular meeting held on October 26th, 2020. A motion, please.
So,
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, John. Any questions or comments? Sean and Kim, you. Yeah. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion is carried. Personnel recommendations, a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Tammy, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, one question for Kelly. Do we still, thinking about the 1.5s for some of the positions, do we have intent to fill those as budgeted if there's a candidate, or?
Are you referring to there's a couple modified positions that were
Yeah, I
added?
think we're budgeted for FTEs and both.
Oh, I see, all right.
Is it a recruitment problem, or is it?
Well, at this point, all of these, we're putting on, so that it will allow us to move forward with a modified program, should the district determine that that's feasible. Anything can change. This just gives us the ability to move forward with that programming. If we as a section, we as a league decide to do that. The 1.5 specifically, I'm assuming that it's because we lacked additional applicants for those positions, but Seth, I don't know specifically. I would need to follow up. It would probably make the most sense I would recommend to the board, that you may want to table those if you're seeking additional information, and then I can find out more specifically the background to those.
I mean, I'm fine with the rest of the modified, assuming we can figure out.
Why don't I just pull those two? Can we do that?
Yes, so pull the Kai Abs and Michael Brandon.
Okay.
And I'm abstaining from William O'Kay.
And I would just like to thank Carolyn Ruff for her years of service. She was an absolutely wonderful nurse in the elementary school, and she will be sorely missed.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion's carried. We do financial reports and CSE meetings in one. That's okay with everyone? A motion, please? Let me finish. Sorry.
So moved.
Thank you, Lucy. And second? Second. Thank you, Tammy. Any questions or comments about financial reports or CSE recommendations? All in favor? Any opposed? The motions are carried. We are now going on to reports. The principal's reports. Mrs. Robbins. Oh, wherever you wish.
Okay, the end of the first quarter was last Friday, 11/13, and we made it through the first quarter. The second quarter begins today, and the teachers have until Wednesday at 3 p.m. to finish their grades. Report cards will be sent out on Friday. Friday is a half day, and teachers are holding Google Meets with their parents. They've actually been holding these for a couple of weeks if need be, and making phone calls home. It's a different type of year since we're not having parents in the building, so I think in some ways we've had more communication than ever, which is a good thing. We've had some changes starting the second quarter. both ways. Several students have gone fully remote for the next quarter, while some are coming back either full-time or hybrid, depending on the grade level. We will have 2 Junior Honor Society inductions this week. We're going to try to have the ceremonies live. One is tomorrow at 9 starting at 2, and one is Thursday at 2. We've got 9 students in each cohort being inducted, so 18 altogether. And we're going to allow the students each to invite 2 guests. So that'll be held in the auditorium tomorrow. Senior Spotlight, we've been doing that every day. 2 students a day are recognized. They also get big chocolate bars, so that's been fun. The week before the Christmas vacation, we're gonna be holding a Spirit Week, and we're still in planning stages on that with the Student Senate. And I'll be finishing up my non-tenured teacher observations within the next 2 weeks, and I'm starting to work on my tenured teacher observations. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will fold Julie couldn't be here tonight, so I will fold hers into mine.
All right, so now we have department reports.
Over here. So we just finished up some of our outdoor training programs last week, and we transitioned as of today to more of our traditional indoor sports. They're gonna continue to do the training and conditioning program up until the point where we actually start our winter sports. So recently we had a MAC league meeting where we discussed possible start dates for the MAC league. At this point, they're not releasing their start dates. They're waiting for more guidance from the governor before they need to release multiple start dates and confuse people. So we have a start date in mind. At this current juncture, the governor's not released high-risk sports to participate, which happens to be the sports we run, basketball and wrestling. So we're waiting for whenever he's to determine if he's going to let us start or not. We can start as early as November 30th or as late as January 4th. At this point, we have picked a date in the middle of those 2 days to start.
Can I clarify that?
Yes,
That the league chose that date.
the league chose that date.
We're pushing for the 30th.
We did push the league to start on November 30th. Unfortunately, we're not gonna start that early. It doesn't appear. So we discussed other things at the league meeting, such as some of the policies we're gonna have in place to govern our sports once they start. So that whenever you travel in between communities, our entire community will know the expectations as far as sanitizing, the check-in process, the temperature scans, the mode of transportation, what facilities they're gonna be provided when they get there and whatnot, all the way down to whether or not we'll be allowing fans. And a lot of these decisions are still being discussed, and we haven't come to any definitives at this point, but we're hoping to approve that document at our next league meeting. And I think that's it.
Can I just get clarification on something? I think I understand what you said, but when you said travel in between communities, our community will be made aware of like the protocols. But
We're gonna have
you didn't mean like community, because then you said top fans, you don't know if fans will be allowed. When you said community, did you mean the team?
The team and any spectators that may be allowed to attend the games. We just want, for example, we want people to know that when they arrive at an opposing district, they will check in this year with a name and a phone number for contact tracing purposes. They'll have a temperature scan, where they'll be allowed to be in the buildings and whatnot. We just want every community to have the same rules, so it's not a mystery when you go somewhere else.
So can I ask a question? Is it a governor's decision, a school district decision, a MAC decision on if spectators and fans can attend these games?
As of now, the decision at the state level is 2 fans per athlete.
Wait, so that's a MAC thing you said, or?
State.
Okay, thank you.
But leagues, sections, even individual districts can make tighter sanctions if they choose to do that.
One of the issues with spectators, to give an example of where the discussion's going, is the amount of time that's going to be necessary to sanitize the facilities, how quickly we can get one group out of the gymnasium, sanitized, another group in, and some of the contact tracing problems that adds along the way as well. So there is some steps, there's a number of steps involved to getting spectators in the stands, even if it is just parents.
But that's what it looks like right now, like only two people per athlete.
Yes, the guidance from the state level is 2 per athlete, and that can be adjusted at the section level, league level, or our district.
So it's not like the community can just go attend a ball game.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, not even the loosest of restrictions.
Okay.
So, none of those parameters have been set yet. I have to give Mr. Farrar credit for really taking the lead in our league and creating a survey for coaches to take. He, in our last meeting, reviewed the results of those survey. He even drafted a document so that everybody in the MAC can commit to a certain set of expectations, behaviors, regardless of where you go. That way it's not pitting districts against one another. Everyone knows what to expect, but the details aren't finalized yet. So he's done a great job with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say hats off to you guys for taking that leadership role. That is great, and that'll hopefully get us one step closer to having a season. And I'm really happy that we were the one, I wish all the districts wanted to start on the 30th of November, but I'm really happy we attempted to persuade others to. What was the rationale for not, can you share what?
Truthfully, they want, a general consensus is people want more direction from the governor before they jump into things and then we shut the kids down, or they didn't want to jump the gun on a decision that he may make.
So,
I believe, is that accurate?
Absolutely, and our pushback to that was if we have the ability to at least start counting some of those practices and we can control that in a safe way, why would we not do that? And I think it's just a comfort level of wanting more time, more security, not having to be the one to make that call. They did take a roll call vote, we were the sole district to
I
vote
read
no
the
on that.
report, yeah.
Um,
So then the second question of that would be, okay, so that district isn't comfortable starting. What about a district that is?
Right,
Why wouldn't it then be anybody who feels comfortable and has the policies and procedures?
Start dates are a league, to say all the schools have.
The league
Okay,
says
so,
that.
well, my thing was make it the 30th, and if you're not comfortable starting until December 15th, then don't.
Right.
You don't
I
have to.
was surprised when that went to a vote as quickly as it did, despite my attempts to prolong the conversation, right, Jen? So, it is what it is at this point, but the next piece that was offered was, or suggested was, we should be pulling in our representatives from our county departments of health to help advise some of this. And they sought a district from each county to sit on that, and we immediately jumped on that opportunity, so, Delaware County would be represented at least at that next level of decision.
Which is great. My concern with it is that, so what do you have to have? Is it 14 or 15 practices? in order to- What's it?
It's been six.
6, okay, well that gives it a little more flexibility, because if you start December 15th and you have the old number with the holidays, you're not gonna start on January 4th,
Right.
what the tentative date is now. With 6, I suppose you still can,
Theoretically,
although it would be nice to have some extras,
Agreed.
but
I believe I actually said in the meeting, along with what you said, I said we can make it November 30th, and then every district can decide on their own what date after that.
Right.
they say
that seems logical. Yeah, well, thanks for
And-
representing us though.
Lastly, I'm sorry I showed up a few minutes late, if anyone wants me to clarify that salary and a half, about 4 or 5 years ago, we always employed 2 modified basketball coaches, one for the 7th grade team and one for the 8th grade team. About 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, we started to employ one person to run both teams. And that's why it went to a salary and a half. It's 2 teams, just 1 coach. If that helps clarify.
That gives me the background that I was missing. I have a couple of follow-up questions.
Okay.
So I appreciate offering that. Regardless, the motion is already closed, we can go back and revisit that. But and I think we have a meeting on Friday, an athletic committee meeting.
And we have a meeting on the 14th, we can get it back.
That's right, the December meeting is
December
right,
meeting's
so, right,
It's the 14th.
right. So,
We'll get it back
but
in.
I appreciate you clarifying that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
And the only other thing I was thinking as you're formulating what to do as we start games, to think about food. Just because there will be concession stands for the players.
Concession.
And so whether maybe they bring the food in, but I'm also thinking there might be a possibility that the parents, traditionally parents have always taken their child home, only a couple don't. But if the parent isn't allowed in or whatever reason, and that doesn't happen, then these children are gonna be really hungry.
We did discuss
Okay.
that most winter sports teams arrive home at or around 10 p.m. Sometimes for our longer trips, and a child who doesn't get dinner before 10 p.m. is not a healthy child.
No,
And I know here at Delaware Academy in the past, Mrs.
Miller.
Miller, yeah, I don't know if
She's not here tonight.
She started providing meals, our coaches could order from the cafeteria, and get a sub, a bag of chips, bottle of water, whatever to take with them, and that is something that we very well may visit again this year, because if parents can't come, dinners are gonna be tough to come by.
So the
I also
visiting,
think about it.
the visiting team also
Could purchase
purchased
that.
Uh,
Maybe they could purchase it.
That's what I mean, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
something for us to look into for sure.
Yeah, 'cause
Thinking also a cooler with Gatorade.
Yeah, we just have to be
Always-
careful because
We
there are
can't
some pretty
share that.
tight sanctions on concessions.
Right.
But
So,
now,
you're right.
I mean, well, I'm thinking on the bus maybe.
One of the rules we have implemented, and this is
We
from
could
the
send our own
Department of
kids
Health
with
too.
Yeah.
They have to provide enough water, whatever, for their own self, there's no sharing or.
Oh, that's true too.
So, realistically, every single athlete should bring enough of what they need.
Right.
Between the time they leave and the time they out, towels, waters, foods.
Jeff, one more question. For the high-risk sports, has it been discussed or has there been any guidance from the state about, for the section about participating, if the athletes will have to wear masks or not during those competitions?
That is a local the decision from the Department of Health is, how does the wording go? They have to wear the mask up until the point it can no longer be tolerated. The MAG League has gotten stricter on that rule, and we have said that they are gonna wear masks while they play.
Unless there's a medical reason for not doing so.
And hopefully the Department of Health, if I'm correct, is gonna help us draft guidance for when we start playing that'll clarify some.
That's part of the, each county getting together and employing our local departments of health in fine tuning the document that you had started.
So the next question then is, it sounds like the MAC League has got a good running start on this. What's your sense of the other leagues? So my concern with that, part B to the question is, if other leagues don't have the basis and sort of the template built for how to operate it, I don't know where the Tri-Valley League is, I don't know where the STAC is or the other leagues.
SAG and ISC have voted to start January 4th.
Okay. Will though, what in the other leagues,
They have not.
Tri-Valley, Delaware?
They have not voted yet.
They haven't voted, okay. All right, so that would be my concern, that just we do all this and then at the section level, people vote down like they did for fall sports quickly.
The only change at the sectional level at this point is they are going to take 8 teams instead of 16 teams to the sectional tournament. Try to shrink the tournament, complete it in a week instead of 2. And the state championships are still on as scheduled.
Okay, and then the next level up, sorry to keep going, what's your sense of New York State public high schools in the the way they're going to approach each section.
Section 3 already announced that they are not doing any postseason play.
Okay.
That's the only one I've heard any rumor on at this point.
Of any changes other than January 4th?
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Jeff.
Farrar.
Perfect time.
Mr. Caesar. Welcome.
Thanks. This has been what do you guys say, a learning curve, I guess, for both Skip and I both. We're just kind of thrown into something haven't been quite used to. I'm more used to getting my hands dirty, that's what I like to do, and now that's not quite so much.
Well, you can keep doing that.
Don't say stop. There's a lot of paperwork that I'm trying to weasel through, but we had a little problem with the clock tower, which we have gotten straightened out finally, I hope. We moved the nurse's office from the dash department over here to the middle school. That's what they wanted to have, so it was easier for the middle school kids, and dash had more room, I guess is what the basic part was. And then we have fire inspection tomorrow, which I hope goes well. The way it looks, it should go well. So and then just disinfecting the elementary school from what we had the past week here. So 4 of us went up, we disinfected the whole thing. Took us about a day and a half. We went through everything, made sure it was all compliant with the state, and that's where we are there. So I don't know if there's anything else.
Any other questions?
Not really anything, but you know.
Well, thank you
Good
very
baptism
much.
by fire for Mr. Simpson.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for participating in the cleaning. That's awesome.
Oh, yes.
That's the way I was, from my previous bosses, that's the way you get your hands just as dirty as the rest of them, and they'll respect you. That's the way.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
That's all. That's great.
Mr. Schultz.
Alright, yeah, so I never told Dave to stop, and he actually came into my office, so I wanna commend him for that point exactly. That was one of the things that people pointed out, the fact that we had to pivot as quickly as we did
Yeah.
from that Thursday night into Friday morning. I was on the phone with David, I think 3 times that night, Thursday night, and he had a plan ready to go at 6 a.m. and I went in the building, he was already with the guys doing exactly what they were doing. So I had many people comment on that, so I commend you for that. And I commend him in the fact that he has not walked into my office yet saying, I don't know how to do this. The only thing he asked was, how much paperwork do I have to do? How much time do I have to spend in my office? And I said, you can spend as little as you want in there. So I thank you very much. It's been a really great addition to the district. The nurse's office was really more of a, we need to have 2 exam rooms for now being COVID and everything else. So we ended up looking at space. We were gonna take the dental hygienist space across from Amanda, but that didn't really work that well. We found out that middle school, it was actually the old Dash office.
Oh.
At the end, right behind transportation and building and grounds office, was much better. There's 2 exam rooms, there's kind of a split sitting room, bathroom, it worked out perfect. So Luke did some work on putting drops down there on the IT side of it, and then David and his guys just worked on there were some issues with air exchange and things like that, but they got it taken care of. She's been moved. Dash will take that office over where Amanda was. They will have a testing machine that they need to put into the side room where the copier was. I think that's where they're gonna put it. So they're kind of taking over that space a little bit, but now we have a much larger space. They had a lot of stuff stored in that back room that they moved since, so.
It's also closer proximity to the middle school exit.
Yep.
So if we have students who become ill while they're at school, it's a quick exodus out of the building.
That's great.
So I think it was really a good change for both sides, Dash and the district, so. And actually, I got an email from Dash today asking if we were gonna move Amanda back after this all cleared. I said, no, I have no intention to doing that, so. But thank you for David and his team getting that going and completing it last week. We received November state aid, about $500,000, full amount, no cut. We've received all federal payments from last year and this year up to date, except for about $52,000, which I'm not worried about. It's part of a final expenditure report from August. So sometimes they lag a little bit on that, so I sent them an email on Friday just saying, listen, you have one more due to us, just give me a date when it should be arriving. Tax collection ended last week. Surprisingly, we collected 92%. Normal year, 89%. So I was pretty floored to see that, that number being as high as it is. We probably about $750,000 not collected. That'll come to the district in February when the county makes the district whole and then rebuilds the homeowners from there. So that worked out a lot better than we thought. The CARES Act funding has been split into two different grants called GEARS and ESSER. We have to apply for it. We have applied for it, and we're in the middle of just waiting for approval. I don't see it being an issue whatsoever. We just had to, much like the, not jobs restoration, but I'm trying to think of the name. There's some funding back in 2008, 2009, and 10 that you had to apply to. It became a federal grant because it came from the federal government. This is not going to be considered federal grant money because it's given to the state and the state's doling it out. So we don't have to go that extra step, but we did put the application in. All districts had to apply. The capital project bids are out. We have a walkthrough on Wednesday at 3 o'clock with any interested bidders, contractors. That'll happen at 3 o'clock, usually lasts about an hour, hour and a half. We'll go to both, go through both buildings, every single line, ask, anyone has any questions, they can ask it at that point. Both Chase and Highland Associates will be here to facilitate that walkthrough. Bid opening is at 2 o'clock on December 2nd, which is a Wednesday, so we'll set that up and keep our fingers crossed, hopefully we'll get some good numbers. Last but not least, we're following logging. The village is going to be logging a section of property behind where the bus garage is, their property, setback behind the tree line. We have a similar company, Northeast Timber Services, is who Bill was working in the past. David and I talked about it today. They are looking to do something very similar this winter. They waited from this fall into the winter because they felt that pricing would be a lot better in the winter. So he did get back to me today, and we're going to touch base with him and get a game plan going into the winter months.
How many acres?
I don't know yet. No, not sure. Bill had kind of worked with that. Bill Bartlett had worked with them for quite a while. I know I think it was late spring, maybe early summer. They kind of touched base again and looked at the fall, and he said he felt that the pricing would be much better in the winter. His message this morning was he's pretty confident that the winter pricing will be much better also than even this fall, and so he'd like to move forward and we'll facilitate it and help facilitate that. But as we get closer, we'll let you know.
Any other questions for you?
Carrie, the reimbursement that you said we just got in that wasn't affected, is that because of the lawsuit on the first one? Is that holding up? Didn't,
No, this is federal money. These are federal grant payments.
okay, I mean the state reimbursement.
What's that?
Our state reimbursements that came in that you said?
So we've received, the cuts that we received and saw back in the late summer and August, we have not gotten anything back yet for that. We lost about 90,000, I think.
Okay, and that was where the lawsuit was filed.
As soon as they hit those, the lawsuit was filed, probably a week after.
Yeah.
We haven't seen any kind of reimbursement for that. And I haven't really heard any talk again about stimulus money. I think, our feeling is that stimulus money I think it will come through. At what level, I don't know yet, but they're being pretty quiet about it. The feeling is that there will be some pain, it just won't be as harsh possibly going into this year, so. But the one I was talking about was federal. They had held back federal payments from, it was like April on, and we finally got all those kind of unleashed, I guess you could say, except for one. But yeah, the two that we got cut, it was a previous accounts receivable on excess cost aid, and the other was an aid payment in August that we got nailed for.
So that's still a receivable though for us at this
It
point.
is, yeah.
Okay, good.
For the money that you just applied for, the federal, that went to the state, is there any restriction on how we spend that, if we get it?
There's a few restrictions. they gave us a little guidance on it. I mean, I'd say we as a district, we kind of all collaborated to talk about it. What we did was, basically what it was that $285,000 that you saw taken out of foundation aid when they did the aid runs back in the late or early spring, was that additional money that they threw back in. What we did was we put it mainly to salaries. Here we just basically said, listen, if we didn't have that money, we would have had to cut staffing. So we basically put that towards the salaries of those individuals, just select those individuals.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you.
Mr. Petrilli.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to let you know that during our short month that we've only had several official CSE IEP meetings. And we've had more parent-teacher meetings explaining different things and different changes. And Mrs. Robbins has been very gracious to allow us to make some changes. And I'm happy to report that the district is in good standing with our parents and our caregivers in reference to CSE. The majority of my teacher evaluations are completed. I only have 3 left, and hopefully November 30th, when our elementary program is back intact, I'll be able to tackle those and have those all prepared before the end of the year.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Mr. Potter-Ziba.
I think the only thing that I can announce at this point is just a message to the community for technology support. If you're a parent at home, needing assistance with a Chromebook, unable to get on Meets, since shifting to remote and elementary, our main line, our phone number is 607-746-1326. You can also email us at support@delhighschools.org. Just trying to get the word out for everyone, just so we can continue supporting everyone that's out and about and continue what we're doing. If there's any other questions or comments the board has of me, I'm happy to ask or answer.
I
Yes.
have a question, I don't know if it's for you, principal, the superintendent, I'm not sure. But I made a phone call to Spectrum today for a family member of mine who would probably qualify for free internet because Spectrum is advertising free internet for qualified students and teachers. So when I called to find out about that today, I have a 7-year-old niece who needs her Chromebook internet at home. They have it, but anyway, they told me they do it for 60 days, that's it. They only do it for students for 60 days. And I didn't know, that's great, that's 2 months of school, but I didn't know, maybe there's no students in this district that are affected by that, but I didn't know if there was anything that the school does beyond that.
If you know of a family that's experiencing a particular hardship and access is a concern, please reach out to Mr. Potter-Ziba at both of those sources that he just listed.
Okay, can I ask, but do you do like hotspots, do you know? Or
There's a number.
We handle these requests on a case by
Oh,
case
exactly. There's a number of
basis through
factors.
the
Okay.
business office and
Okay.
myself, and we try and coordinate with different agencies in the
Okay.
community to find out what our best routes are and we
Right.
go from there. It's really on a case by case.
Exactly.
Thank you.
If a customer has a huge outstanding balance, that those are circumstances where we can't necessarily extend
Yeah,
things that lend a helping hand when, there are things of those natures out there. But we really try and be respectful in the process and get people what they need and help out as we can.
Certainly reach out.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Potter-Ziba. All right, Superintendent, Mr. Zimmerman.
Yeah, just a couple of quick updates. Mr. Farrar already hit what I was gonna share with, from our MAC meeting. But COVID update. And Mrs. Mabel couldn't be here tonight, so I said I would fold her report into mine. We are still on track for returning to our previous models at the elementary school right after the Thanksgiving break. The decision to go all remote in the meantime, based on the extent of contact tracing that needed to take place, has served us well. As every time that there's updated information or an additional infection that I'm aware of, we're turnkeying that to the community right away. So we currently just stand at the 1 staff and 2 students. That's all been contained at this point. And no reason to believe that we shouldn't be ready to go on the 30th. Certainly, if that changes, we will let you know. I do have to make a comment, however, that despite the fact that all of our students at the elementary are remote, that parking lot has been full, meaning that our teachers have continued to come to the classroom, for the most part, to deliver instruction in, using an environment that was familiar to our students, being able to access their materials and supplies, and really, going to great lengths to ensure continuity of learning in a less than ideal situation with very limited notice as we were forced to switch to that model. We did give our teachers a choice because as a district, we wanted to support that level of flexibility, recognizing full well the hardship that this placed on some of our teachers who have little ones at home in the elementary. And regardless of platform or where they've been teaching from, they have not missed a beat. And they've really collaborated well with their grade level colleagues to continue to bring quality programming as best as they could in that interim. So nothing but good news in terms of moving forward in our elementary school. The other piece too is you may have seen some of the governor's notices coming out regarding the yellow zones, red zones, orange zones. We talked a little bit about that at the special board meeting, and the required pool testing. Since November 9th, there have been 3 addendums and updates to those requirements. And where it currently stands continues to be that if our region is designated as a yellow zone, then we as a district have a choice. We can begin to test immediately upon receiving that designation. For those first 2 weeks, we can test 20% of our student, staff, and faculty population using pool testing. At this point, that is provided free of charge, the test kits from New York State. However, the district is instructed to collaborate with local health departments and healthcare providers to determine the personnel that's needed to conduct those tests, including articulations with testing facilities to get the results of those. So the latest guidance today said that if there is a 7-day average within those 2 weeks of your pool test results falling below the regional average, you can discontinue that. So you don't need to go on and on and on with that testing. So, obviously our preference is to be able to stay open as much as we can to in-person models, and the only way to do that is to engage in this type of pool testing. I know that while other districts are not even considering this and are preferring to just say we'll go all remote, at DA we are not. So Mr. Schultz and I tried to be proactive a bit, and last week we went to visit our neighbors across the road at SUNY Delaware and observed their process for pool testing. Now granted, their requirements are a little bit different than they are for public schools, but we were able to get a sense of the process that they go through, what the lines actually looked like, what the roles of everybody were, how they actually create the pool that they send off for testing, and had an opportunity to speak with the president over at SUNY Delaware, and really get a sense of what is working and what has made that work for them. We talked to some of the health officials over there, just so that should we need to rely on our neighbors and capitalize on some of those relationships to support us, if that is a way that we can continue to remain open to our in-person learning, we're certainly motivated to look into doing that. In the meantime, we also received word from Bassett that they are unable to provide staff to support this effort. And I believe that response came from after the governor insisting that school districts collaborate with their local hospitals or other healthcare providers. You know, Bassett had to make that decision, and no fault of their own, I don't blame them at all. They're hard pressed to staff as it is with the demand. And so they indicated to us that they could not provide that. However, Mr. Schultz and I are meeting with them again tomorrow to say what are some other creative ways, however, that we can pool resources. One of the pieces that we've already looked into applying for is districts can be designated as what are called limited service laboratories. And this is an application to the state, and through this authorization, the district itself can become the limited service laboratory to conduct simple card swab rapid tests at minimal cost to the district. However, it's in collaboration in consultation with a medical director typically, or another physician. So that's part of the conversation that we'll be having with Bassett tomorrow. Just again, to be ahead of the curve, to position the district to be ready should we be designated as a yellow zone, so that we have the greatest opportunity to maintain our open status as possible.
Kelly, with
Yeah.
the kits that they said they would provide, going back to what you're saying, if we're designated as in the 20% yellow bin, they said that the state would provide the testing kits. Did they say what kind of test? Is it a
They're the
35-day or a rapid
No,
test?
they're a rapid test, but they are just a saliva, just a simple card where they put the chemical, on the card.
So it would be the
it's
same
normal.
kind of test as in the limited service lab? That
Yes.
same test?
Yes, that's my current understanding of that.
All right, and so then it comes down to how do we process it is what you're saying, and that's what you're meeting with Bassett.
As part of applying for it to be a limited service laboratory, you would have to also explain what, who you're collaborating with to actually run the pool test as it comes back.
Does the fact that we have the DASH program play any role in that at all? Because isn't that affiliated with Bassett as well?
Yes.
It is. Initially, we thought that we'd be able to collaborate and they would provide some oversight, some staff, but they're not able to do that. The machine that they use is an Abbott machine when they have to run tests, which is different, of course, than what is required to examine the samples that we would take through what's provided through the state. So I know other districts are looking into this. I'm actually meeting with a few other superintendents also to have this conversation to see how we can pool resources perhaps regionally. And even how Delhi might be able to support some of our smaller neighbors in serving as maybe a more expanded limited service laboratory.
Can I ask a question? So when it's pool testing, how many kids is that? Do you know? How does that work?
And then this is just from my observation at SUNY Delhi, they would take, I believe, between 10 and 12 made up a pool.
And are the parents notified of this? Like, are you gonna test my child without telling me?
No, there's a consent form. Yep, no, that is a really great question. It's a really great question. I've been in receipt of examples of consent forms already.
Okay.
Parents can refuse the test.
Okay.
So anybody has a right to refuse the test. We only have an obligation to test 20%, but I would provide literature and parents to information so they can make an informed decision. Because, you could easily flip that and saying, and so choosing to refuse a test, does that place potential risk on the greater population if we're unable to ascertain should that child's name come up?
So is this something that gets done like ahead of time in preparation? Because so you have it on file that we have kids, parents' permission? Because will there be time? Like once we're in yellow and we wanna stay open, you know what I mean? Are we gonna have time to do all this?
There's never enough time.
I'm aware of that.
But you're asking great questions. So these are all pieces that we're working now
Okay.
to get the wheels in motion to have it ready. And we are not, although I have sample consent forms, we're not at the point yet where we're sending that out. Nor would we be without knowing first if this plan is viable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know that yet if the test that you're talking about has to accompany a flu test?
I've not heard that,
Okay.
I've not heard that.
And isn't the state already come out with that they're not accepting the rapid test? Negative, it has to still be sent out to a lab, but they're gonna provide us with, why did I hear that?
They're accepting.
Well, they're not accepting if it's negative, if it's negative, it still has to be sent out to a lab. So it's not gonna be that quick.
Yeah, I
Well,
can't
it will
speak to, I can't speak to that, I know that,
Like Bassett has two ways, it can be sent out to like the Mayo Clinic or, that's the longer lead time. They also have like a rapid test, if you're gonna get a procedure done.
Okay.
That morning, you're gonna get a test there at the hospital. If you had to wait, you know, a lot of people wouldn't get necessary procedures.
I don't know where I thought that came down from the state, I thought I read that somewhere, that school
I had heard
districts.
the same thing, Kim, that if
Where
you
did I
had a
read
rapid test
You could have the rapid
and
test,
if it came back negative,
negative, they still had to send it out to the lab, and you had to wait your 5 to
Right.
7 days to get
Right.
that back to prove it,
right,
right? That's,
Yeah.
where did I hear that? Oh, never mind, sorry,
I don't know,
okay,
not related to this.
okay.
I know this is different. Those are the two big things that I had tonight to share with everybody. Any other questions on either one?
Sorry, I do have a
No, that's okay, Kim.
So it's going back to the elementary being remote right now.
Yes.
So can you maybe explain to me, so the hybrid kids on the remote days have a remote teacher. So they're remote all the time now, so how is that working? Is the homeroom teacher and the remote teacher working collaboratively with that same group of kids now? What?
The teams at the elementary school at every grade level came together almost overnight to decide how they wanted to address all of those kids as a team.
Okay.
My understanding is that the remote-only teachers kept their remote-only kids, kept those classes intact. And the teachers who had kids both remotely and during the day tried to maintain those homerooms as best as they could. And it looked different at every grade level.
Okay. Thank you.
So it wasn't like everybody went to the remote-only teacher.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
Yes, so I just wanted to address the special board meeting. And some things that were brought up. And I just wanted to bring up what Sean Secord had brought up about the mental condition of our students and what he's seen and what the thoughts are in the
Yeah.
school district on that.
Yeah, mental health concerns are very real. They have been throughout this entire pandemic. Even if you go back and look at the language of the initial guidance documents that came out, there were many requirements that had to be included in reopening plans as it pertained to social emotional learning, social emotional health. This district in particular, I've been particularly impressed with how our counseling staff in both buildings anticipated that and got ahead of that and really mobilized not only previous programs that were existing, but have thought outside the box on how to reach all learners, including our remote-only learners who are probably at the greatest risk of isolation and increased mental health. All you need to do is turn on the news and see that the toll that this pandemic is taking on mental health of everyone, students and adults alike. So to the degree that the district is able to mitigate that, we've taken great strides. One example at the elementary school, we added guidance classes as a special. So our elementary counselor is pushing into all of our elementary classrooms and providing very specific instruction on social emotional health. In addition to that, all of our counselors I know at the high school, because I pop into their offices, have students in there every day, or students remotely. And on top of just responding to the increased social emotional needs, and there have been, they've also been connecting with students to try to normalize all the other processes that counselors would traditionally hit on. So, college visits, preparing to sit and register for SATs, financial aid, all of those pieces. And so, in addition to that, Dash has also added I'm trying to think of her specific credentials. I believe she is a clinical social worker who provides clinical counseling above and beyond what would typically be provided by a school counselor. And we have a number of students who are taking advantage of that service on a weekly basis. So, as much as we are aware, we are doing our best to meet those needs. But there's no doubt that mental health, we just had a conversation today about another student where it's been a struggle this year. It really has, so, but, we are, anything that we're aware of, if there's any way that we can help, and we're aware of that, we certainly will.
Thank you very much. Board committee reports, does any committee have any reporting they'd like to do?
We have a lot of committee meetings this coming week.
Yeah, I know, I was just thinking that. So that's the next board meeting, we'll definitely have something to talk to the public about. We do not have any policy review this month. No old business, new business. Let's do them individually. I'd like to have a motion to accept the audit report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. So thank you, Kim, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Seth. Any questions or comments? Yes,
I just have,
sure.
just for my own information, so the school gets the audit every year, and how is the auditor determined? Is that,
By the RFP, 5-year contract.
oh,
That was his last year, it was this year. This audit was the final one, so we'll go with another RFP next month for 5 years.
okay, that's it.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion is carried. The next is a donation in memory of Margaret Brannigan. We're accepting a donation in the amount of $395 from several community members in memory of Margaret Brannigan to the elementary building for use in purchasing school materials and supplies. A motion, please? So moved. Thank you, Tammy, and a second?
Second.
Thank you, Seth. Any questions or comments? And Sue will write it into the, yes, thank you.
And Mrs. Mabel also has written a thank you note, and certainly on behalf of the district, we thank the family and friends for that donation.
Did you say that we're gonna send a note to the family just to let them know?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, I didn't say that very loud.
No, that's
We're
good.
gonna send a note to the family.
Alright, good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion is carried. Approving lease for the storage trailers. We have a lot of equipment that has been moved out of our building into storage trailers due to the downsizing.
Mostly furniture.
Yep, furniture, doing the downsizing of COVID, not allowing us to have anything in classrooms except desks. So a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Lucy and Tammy. Any questions or comments about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion is carried. All right, back around to more public comments. Does anyone have any public comments? No. Okay, and now to board comments, and I will begin with Mrs. Newman.
Well, I was just gonna report that we do have policy committee this week, on Wednesday, so I'm sure we'll have lots of thrilling, exciting policy updates for the next meeting. And I do just wanna comment how much I appreciate everyone, administrators, students, staff, teacher, everybody who is just constantly looking for ways to be creative and involve people and trying to just create a bit of a sense of normalcy for people. It's really commendable because it really is a time that could bring everybody down so easily, and we've got a lot of fight and a lot of spunk, and it shows in a lot of different ways, and I really appreciate that from everybody. So, thank you all.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yeah, I too would like to say a special thank you to all the teachers and staff and administrators in the district. This is so hard and so time consuming. But I want to give a special shout out to the 6th grade team because my son is in 6th grade in Delaware right now, and I don't know how they're doing it, but they are so dialed in every day. The consistency and they're always so present and always so available, and their lessons don't miss a beat, in person or on Google Meets. And so far my son is having a very, very good year, and I know it's because of them. So shout out to 6th grade, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shepherd. Mr. Hay?
Yeah, I just found your comment about the teachers still coming in and collaborating that quickly to get things as normal as they could. I think that's inspirational. I want to thank everybody who is part of all that. And it takes good leadership and the planning and lots of follow through. And so thank you for everybody that's doing that in all of the departments.
Mr. Liddy?
Pass.
Mr. Tucker?
I'd just like to say, I'm glad to hear there's gonna be a spirit week from Mrs. Robbins, and I think the kids need it. So.
Yeah, I was trying to get them to do one a month, but right now, we've got one planned for December, I think, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ideas that Student Senate has come up with
Yeah.
are just phenomenal. And I don't wanna let out any secrets. But I mean, we're gonna be in for a treat, you know, the things that they've asked if I would be willing to do. Just a little foreshadowing. But, you know, it's not just administrators or teachers planning this. Our students are taking ownership and saying, hey, this is not okay. And we know that we can be better. And I have been inspired by the students. Some of my favorite meetings have been in those Senate meetings. Mrs. Robbins knows, Mr. Schultz has been in them. And it's just really neat to watch our students think outside the box. It's magical, you know. And they're not just thinking of here. Our high school students are thinking of our elementary students, you know, and they want to dress up as the bulldog, and they want to cheer on kids for getting on buses, and it's really neat. And we're giving our students carte blanche. If you can think of ways to do it safely, like, we're all in this together, right? Go for it. It's really been neat to watch. So thanks for bringing that up.
Mrs. Kelly?
I'd just like to say that there's definitely a feeling that we're working as a team. Administrators, teachers, faculty, and students. I think we're headed in a good direction. And that is nice to see. Not that it's all rosy. With the COVID, there is that overshadowing. But I do like that feeling of working as a team. I would like to know, perhaps at our board meeting in December, the number of students in each grade level failing, and how that maybe, it's probably a mute question, but how that compares with the number of children in that same grade that are not engaging to online.
They'll be a little more difficult to quantify, but we'll do our best.
I just, yeah, that would be something that would be interesting for me to see.
I just want to thank the community for participating in the meeting that we had on November 4th. I know everyone needs to express how they feel at this time. It's important that we do that. Sometimes it's hard to hear. Sometimes we have to just do what's hard. And I just want to tell everyone, thank you very much for participating in that meeting. It really it opened a lot of eyes, and I'm glad we were able to do that, and I'm sure we'll be doing it again in time. Anything else anyone wants to share? All right, our next Board of Education meeting will be on the 14th of December. We'll be doing an executive session at 5 p.m. here in the library, and then we will open up to open session at 6. And we will also, of course, continue our online thank you to Mr. Parziva. Deadlines for items to be placed on that agenda is Tuesday prior, so please get in touch with the district clerk, Mrs. Temple, and her number is 746-1306, or you can email her. And now I'd like a motion to enter into executive session. Thank you, Seth, and a second?
Second.
And for discussing a contract with superintendent evaluation.